It's officially December, which means that many of us are getting excited about the festive period, but the other side of that is a little bit less exciting. So we're going to touch on a few things today. We've had some really interesting stats out from the RSPCA this month. One of the things is most noteworthy is that during the winter period, they see an increase in animals being rehomed of 51%. Now that seems like a huge number, but you've been doing this for a number of years, Jess. Did that surprise you?
Well, not recently. I've obviously, because we work in rescue now, well, you do now too. The numbers have been going up over the past few years. I think since lockdown, since we've had an influx of owners choosing to live with dogs, which is nice because it really supports mental health. It's fantastic, obviously, to have a dog, something to come home to, that extra piece of the puzzle. But if we're not able to meet their needs, I think a lot of people, well, I'll give you an example. When I had the golden retriever puppies, raising as therapy dogs, lots of people came forward and said, I'd really like a puppy. And I let them have them for a week at a time. And more than half of them, of the people that expressed interest, returned the puppy because it was too much work. And that's lovely because it says then, well, you shouldn't have gone and bought one. And it was great that you could borrow one and see what it's like. Actually, a dog isn't for me. But if you buy one and you go, oh my goodness, we'll just struggle along. I don't think people know how much work a dog entails.
And do you think you were quite open with that process? So compared to when I went to get a dog from a breeder and it was this big lengthy process, and then once I had him, that kind of felt like the door was shut. Had you kind of kept an open dialogue and let me know if you're struggling, and I can always hit them back so they're more open to being able to do that if they were having a
well, obviously because they're therapy dogs, and these were, I think that's an even more important issue. This is not regular families that just want a dog. These are people that have perhaps children with complex needs or socially isolated adults, and so that's even more important that they're supported, because it is a lot of work having a dog. There's so much to do with them, but the public isn't really aware of the dog's needs. I think that's what Honest Hounds, we're very good at helping people understand how to keep the dogs happy. But when people hear how much exercise they require and how much energy they have so much energy, don't they? They're into everything, especially puppies. And more now, people are saying don't crate them, don't exercise them. There's a lot of fear about over exercising, under exercising. There's fear everywhere, and so people are not really sure what to do. And so the puppy's going, well, I need to have this energy put somewhere. So all I read daily is dogs are being destructive. Young dogs or turning reactive very young. From 6 months now, we can see aggression start to creep in. And these are maladaptive behaviours. That's a behavioural term for something's not going well. So there's something that's causing this behaviour to go, against the normal behaviour. It's not a regular occurrence for dogs to become aggressive, and yet now the stats are that that's what dogs are getting rehomed for.
And I guess we're seeing some maybe signs of why that might be. So if we think about those stats, particularly from the RSPCA, that's 51% more over the winter period. So we've been out for a few walks recently and we're having lovely quiet walks, but what do you think the correlation is between the winter period and dogs being given up?
Well, first of all, I noticed myself, since the clocks have gone back, it's not as nice to go out when it's cold and dark. It's harder work to have a dog at this time of year because you have to be motivated to go out and want to walk, and it's not going to be blue skies every day. So there's the motivation from the human. The clocks going back means that we've got shorter days. We've got shorter days to get things done. So we've got a lot of things that need done. And then coming up to Christmas, we've got the added pressure of seeing family, and then gift buying or money stresses. So there's lots of going on in our personal lives, and then the dogs don't get as much energy and attention.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that a lot, and I think that's what's really lovely about the neutral walks and the social walks, is it's providing that space to get people out, and it might be miserable, it might be raining, but I can see my friends, and my dog loves hanging out in that space, so it is a really nice one for people to lean into, and I think we'll see that kind of combating it. And I guess that ties in quite nicely with the emergency toolkit that we've just launched. So something we've been working on for quite a few months now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the concept behind it and what we've just put together?
Yeah, so the emergency toolbox is for anyone who's struggling, thinking, what do I do next? So I have a problem with my dog, I've been to trainers, I've got advice online, I'm not sure what the next step is. And obviously working with rescues, I'm hearing all the time about the phone calls coming in. We're not having enough interest in dogs, people looking for a dog. We've got lots of interest in people trying to get rid of dogs. And everybody thinks it's not going to happen to them until the point it happens to them and they go, I've just reached the end now. I think the big issue for me is that people aren't aware that there isn't the farm home, there isn't the person that's willing to put all that effort into to undo behavioural problems. Everyone seems to think it's curable, but they don't want to do it themselves. They want to pass the buck on to somebody else, which I can understand that when you've reached the end, it's very, very hard to see a way through, but there isn't anybody else that wants to take on. You have the strongest bond with your dog and nobody else can replace that. The buck needs to stop with you.
And I think we've got a community of people that are really getting that. And I think what's lovely is we've got the people that have come out the other side. So the brilliant thing is that we're doing our weekly in December, because we know it is a challenging time, the drop-ins. So you'll be able to come along once a week and speak to one of our trainers, and our super users as well have joined in with that. So it's a really nice space just to be able to go, I need to chat things through, because I think we get ourselves kind of stuck into a rut, and quite a few of the relationship roadmaps that I've done, they haven't quite realised how stuck and confused they've got. But when we sit down and go, let's unpick it, let's scale it back, let's talk about some things, I think having that space where you're not just surviving and you can start to think about a forward plan can be a really big step that we don't even realise that we're missing.
Someone else's perspective, just to go, actually, if you look at it this way, this is what we can do. And most of the time we have people going, oh my goodness, absolutely. And they don't really want to change. I think you're in the same boat. You don't really want to give your dog up. And when you called me, you certainly didn't. But what do I do? I'm stuck. And so we have to twist the narrative.
And so at this time of year, there's more risk of change, there's more risk of things going wrong. And I think that's possibly what propels people into spiraling a little bit. We have, like you say, all these commitments, we have to go and see family, we're in new spaces, we're in new environments, and then if our dog does something that's maybe atypical or something that we don't want to see in them, it can become, well, I've got all these other things to think about, I can't quite cope with this now, or I just want a life where I can travel with my dog and it doesn't have to be this kind of 10-step process. So why is this time of year in particular more cause for concern maybe with some dogs? Why do we see more problems?
I think it's just the busyness of it. It's exciting running up to Christmas, the changes, the smells. People smell differently because we've got different stresses that we're thinking about. There's so many things that are going on. Plus you've got lack of exercise because people aren't walking as much, not really having the dog as a priority just now, because there's a rush, isn't there? Like there's a deadline. Everything, work's finishing at that point. We need to do things. We've got to have the presents ready. We're thinking about kids and holidays, and so the dog becomes the lowest priority.
And then we see the knock-on effect of that, but we're possibly not seeing the things that build to it that result in this. So then it feels out of the blue, it feels quite stressful. One of the things we're doing this month, we've got our December theme, so it's all about setting our dog up for success, and we've got some lovely Zooms planned with our coaching guys on how we can kind of set up for the festive period, how we can make it beneficial for the dog. So if you could give everyone one tip to surviving the festive period, what would be your choice?
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the hammer there with there's a build up, so we might not notice that our busyness the dog's picked up on, and then the excitement and the build up to what's happening behind the scenes and the visitors coming. And so these things might be small stresses initially, but these small, they call it trigger stacking in behavioural terms, where these small stresses build up, and there's not really anywhere for it to go. So when it's out of the blue, actually it's been this build up. So I think for me, we always come back to thinking about how do we meet the dog's needs, how do we create endorphins to release the stresses and get rid of that cortisol that might be building up beneath the surface that we can't see. So just prioritising the dog a little bit and going, there are changes at this time of year, what can I do for you? And a really simple thing, as well as making sure that the dog's getting adequate exercise, is to have the dog away. So for visitors that are coming around, just putting the dog away and going, you know what, you don't need to be involved in this, just have some quiet time. It's really simple, but lots of people assume that dog has to be involved with everything that we do. We feel guilty if they're not.
I used to have that. I used to want them to be a part of everything, and I'm having a nice time and I want them to share that with us. And so I think when you're doing that and it's all about the festive period and giving, we love giving our dogs things, they have gifts, and lots of us kind of set those days up for them. So then to go, oh, I don't really want them to be away feels counterintuitive. But actually, if we do see it as a stress, and even if you've got the dog that's really excited and jumping all over everyone, that's still a form of stress for them. So how do we get them just to go, I've had a really nice walk, we've all gone out and done that together, and now you can just have some time to chill, because they obviously need a lot more sleep than us, don't they?
Yeah, and just thinking of it from the dog's perspective. So although gift giving, for example, on Christmas Day itself is very exciting, and the kids might be unwrapping things, and we've got up early and we've got lots of food on the go and lots of different smells, there are visitors, and there's just so many things that are changed. We're not really considering this from the dog's perspective. They have no idea what Christmas is. They're not interested in Christmas. They might be interested in the new things that are going on, but it can be overwhelming for them, and that overwhelm builds up to do the pressure cooker. What do I do? And so the reason we see lots of bites happening around Christmas time is that we're not realising that our excitement is their stress.
And I guess this is worth just reiterating that we really do want to be combating that behaviour, don't we? We want to be getting as few bites and as few bite attempts as possible, because the more that behaviour is practiced, the more likely we are to see it again. So when we know we're going to be in such a high stress environment, it is really just setting everyone up for success, giving your dog a much better chance just to have them away and chilling themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's particularly important for dogs that are classed as excited or hyperactive, because we don't often see that as stress. So it is, chemically speaking, still stress, and they very quickly can overflow into doing something silly like having an excited nip or bite. And when we say out of the blue, well, when we're told out of the blue, they haven't seen that as the prerequisite. So calm behaviour is the long fuse, dogs chilling out. A visitor's here, hi, how are you doing? It's very different than a dog that's going, a visitor's here, I need to do something about it, I'm very excited. Or a visitor's here, I need to retreat. So either of those ends of the spectrum, we need to give them lots and lots of space. A nice calm dog still needs space, but we don't have to worry as much with a calm dog. What's very interesting to me is that when we have dogs that have come along and learned how to be calm, often the owners go, is it all right? It's a bit quiet.
It's a bit subdued. Is he ill? Yeah, we love that kind of dog.
We do.
So I guess it's a really great chance to join the community if you're watching this and you're not already. We're very focused this month on setting people up for success. We've got a link in the bio to access that toolkit if you're coming and thinking that this is the time of year that you're going to struggle with, and that's the human mental health side of things as well. It can be a really, really stressful time if we don't have that family unit, if we're maybe not fitting the mould. So I think reminding ourselves to be kind to ourselves as a priority, but kind of realising that there is a built-in community here. We've got trainers who are doing loads this month to help with the planning, with the tips, with conversations, and again, ways that you can set your dogs up for success. But we've also got the people side of that, so people that are local, people that will be able to get out and walk, so you can put that into your day and something to look forward to. But it's an interesting time of year, and we do, there's so many lovely things about it, but we do need to take the stresses of it seriously too. So yeah, enjoy yourselves and make sure you're having fun, but set yourselves and your dogs up for success too.